Episode 36 of the Interpretation Station is called to order. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Wham Bam. Thank you, Roland. It's going to be very quick, very simple this evening. So I've actually just driven back from Basel. We were in Basel for the weekend. It's about 2.5 hours away. So I just got back about half an hour ago. So it's now 10 to 7 in the evening. And so I'm feeling a bit tired still, looking a bit disheveled. Although I do generally look pretty disheveled. So it's just a cross I have to bear. But I thought to myself, geez, it's Sunday. I should really knock one out for the interpretation station. So this is, as I say, it's really going to put the wham in wham bam. Thank you, Roland. We're going to get straight down to it. It's one of the statements I put up from Togo during the week, a page from it. It was a meeting, it was at the Human Rights Council just this week. It was either on Thursday or Friday. It was the general debate. It was about talking about the Universal Periodic Review. So again, I'm going to scuttle off into the corner. That's probably the best place for me, in the corner where you can't really see me too much. And we'll have a look at the text. All right, so here we go. As I say, it was Togo speaking on behalf of the African group. So again, I start you with some fairly standard, simple words, very crucial words though for with an opening to a statement. You can't get these things wrong. Like Togo s'associe à la déclaration. You need to have Togo aligns with the statement. Togo endorses the statement. Whatever. It's always just good, I think, to remind you of those standard formulas. And again, la déclaration prononcé au nom du groupe africain. So again, I tend to go with just delivered. All right. That's the best, most straightforward solution there. And then ajouter ce qui suit à titre national. So I apologize, actually. They're actually aligning with what was said earlier by the African group, and then they are adding the following in a national capacity. Okay, that's just that standard solution again for à titre national. So again, easy start, but just these opening few formulas, you have to get them right. Otherwise, it's you're going to get things off to a bad start, and it's probably going to get worse after that. Okay, sa mise en place. Okay, so you can say it's establishment, or I think because it's talking about the Universal Periodic Review. I think since its creation, not the fancy one might be since its inception. All right, inception, creation. Now again. I think, if I recall rightly, it was going pretty fast, and again, emphasis was really on, just trying to trim words that weren't necessary, just to stay on top of the statement. So again, le processus de l'examen. Again, le processus I thought was rather redundant here, so that's why I bracketed it. And obviously, by this time also, this is Togo's statement is one of many. It's maybe number 50 or 70. What number is it? Okay, not that far down. Number 10, in fact. See that was they were the 10th speaker. But anyway, they were still well into the debate, and so by this time you don't need to even start by giving the full name, the Universal Periodic Review. You can just go straight into UPR, okay? The scene has already been set, so you can don't worry, just go straight into saying UPR. Connu une forte participation, so I think in English, the best thing here would maybe be to say, has seen strong participation, seen high participation, as opposed to known. I think that wouldn't sound right in English, would it? Ce qui témoigne de leur volonté politique. So again, this is quite a high register solution I've given you here, which is testament to their political will, or which attests to their political will. And another alternative, a third one, maybe you could say, which bears out their political will. So you got a few. Those are three good ones to always remember as my colleague Dan Harrison says, he calls them semantic fields. So those three work well together. Dialogue entre pairs, just to remind us, it's a peer. The whole UPR thing, it's a peer review based system, so that's a very important word. I mean, it's a bit of a. Luckily, peer, they're pretty much cognates. But just remember, peer. The idea is it's countries reviewing each other's performance on a on the basis as peers. All right. Au service de progrès significatif. Okay, so I've given you here for the benefit of. I suppose you could say for the good of significant, a tool, a tool for the benefit of significant progress. That's the best way of doing that. You wouldn't really say for the service of. You want it for the benefit of. En matière de, again, it's just, when you read the English, it's just for, it's a tool for the benefit of significant progress for promotion and protection of human rights, or in promotion and protection of human rights. You don't need to go in the field of, that you can just use one preposition to get that notion across. Now, this is actually perhaps the most important little part of this one-page statement. Si le bilan des trois premiers cycles apparaît largement positif. It's that old conundrum with what to do with the French si. Obviously, when you start learning French, you always just get taught that si is like if. But then once your French reaches a slightly higher level, then you start to see that they don't just use it for if, but also what in English we would say like while or whereas. And it can be sometimes confusing. If you're always just going in, piling with the if, you're going to get into trouble, aren't you? For example, with this one, Okay, so I've given you here for le bilan, okay, track record. That's an important word, by the way, in itself, le bilan. It's always a very good one to remember. Track record, maybe you don't need to say the track, but anyway. So if you start saying, if the record of the three first cycles appears mainly positive, in light of the participation and commitment of all states, there is a need, however. It's not a conditional. This isn't, the seat here isn't being used as a conditional. The idea is comparing. Yes, it has. On the one hand, yeah, it has been good, but there is also a need to keep on improving it. Now, the sort of standard solution to this, which now if you look down to the bottom of the screen, I mentioned it here. I say with a star. All right. If you play safe and drop the C. So that is maybe the safe way of doing it. You drop the C, which means that your sentence is going to sound like this. The track record of the first three cycles appears broadly positive in light of active participation and commitment of all states. And then basically you would put a full stop after states, and then you would have to start the new sentence. Okay, il y a lieu toutefois, but there is a need. You need to add that word. So yeah, that but or that however needs to come across quite strongly to get across that idea that you're offsetting the two notions, so that yes, on the one side things have been good, but there's also a need to do more, okay, to make sure that we improve it. Now, fortunately, in the French, they already give you that toutefois does that job, but that toutefois might not have, they didn't need to say it. Maybe it was just il y a lieu de relever que l'efficacité de ce mécanisme. And then that second sentence, you would need to add that notion in, the but there is a need to note that the effectiveness. So that's the safe way of doing it. Okay, you drop the C, you do the first sentence just as a straight affirmative sentence. And then the second sentence, starting from il y a lieu, you begin that with a but or a however. Now, I must admit, after some years of doing this, I actually become, it doesn't bother me as much as it used to when I started out. I can more or less now predict whether it's going to be an if or a whereas, more or less from the sound, almost from the music of the way it's expressed. Okay, because the music, if you think about it, it's different. Okay, because if this was the way it is, okay, while the track record of the first three cycles appears broadly positive, so the music is like da 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 da. If on the other hand, if it was a conditional, let's say we're looking back over how's the record been. We need to look back on it and see how it is, and the idea being that if it was good, then we're going to do something else. Okay, so that if would then sound like if the track record of the first three cycles appears largely positive. See, the music's different if it's a conditional. The music is like da 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 da. Okay, so I can almost tell that now when I hear the speaker, the music almost of how he's expressing that notion. But as I say, you can either do it that way, and hope you recognize the music, or you play safe and you drop the C, and you just give the affirmative sentence and then the but sentence after. So it's up to you. Okay, so that's an important thing to think about. That C in French. Okay, again, straightforward word here. Relever que l'efficacité de ce mécanisme. Okay, so to note, as I say. La mise en œuvre concrète. Try and avoid, as I say. I'm not a big fan of concrete. Occasionally slips into my speech, I must admit. But here, you say the effectiveness of the mechanisms remains limited when it comes to, well, in English, we would say actual implementation. Okay, I know English speakers maybe struggle with the idea of that actual, because in other languages, obviously, like in French and in French, Spanish, Russian, actual is more like up to date, isn't it? And I think that must throw you English Bs a lot. But in English, obviously, this we would say when it comes to actual implementation, the implementation itself. I think that's the best, certainly much better than concrete, anyway. You could maybe also say when it comes to the tangible implementation, it wouldn't be wrong. Yeah. Okay, let's have a look here. This expression en deçà des besoins, sont largement en deçà des besoins. Now, my standard formula here for en deçà de whatever is to fall short of. It's something that's below. So usually the way it's expressed, it's always, it falls short of. And here, because it's largement, you need to if you want to give that added emphasis, then we would, you could just say fall well short of instead of just fall short of, fall well short of. And just noting here that, for the English to sound smooth, you need to throw the word that in. They note technical and financial capacities that fall well short of needs. So sometimes you have to just throw these words in occasionally in the English to make it sound sort of fluent. Okay, then a couple of standard words here. Sous l'égide de, under the auspices, or just you can say under the aegis, which the aegis, I guess, is the cognative égide. Either's fine. Des bureaux du Conseil des droits de l'homme. Okay, so these, at the UN, these sort of bodies like the Human Rights Council, General Assembly, they all have their own bureaus within them. So that's just a sort of standard organizational jargon, I guess. They're not. We don't call them offices. We call them bureaus. Each of these bodies has the bureaus. Ces consultations ont été des occasions pour les différentes parties prenantes. So here I've, again, if you're in a hurry, if you're falling behind, rather than having to go to the length of saying, these consultations have been opportunities for the different stakeholders. In English, you can just sort of compress that. They've enabled, or they have allowed the various parties prenantes, the stakeholders, is the best, by far the best solution for parties prenantes. Down here, remédier aux contraintes. Okay, I've just given you the classic, quick solution. It's a bit of a cliche to bridge gaps. At the UN, they're always bridging gaps. But it's while it is a cliche, it's a very handy one because it allows you to turn the remédier aux contraintes, 6 syllables into just bridge gaps. 2. Et préserver sa pertinence. Relevance is better than pertinence, obviously. To the final paragraph, les discussions d'être poursuivies sur la base des recommandations faites par les groupes de co-facilitateurs des années précédentes en prenant en compte les défis liés à une participation élargie. So I find a good shortcut for prenant en compte, just reflecting. Again, it's quicker than having to say taking into account, taking into consideration. I find it just works quicker. And then finally, okay, here, these meetings, qu'elles soient virtuelles ou en présentiel, So I'm going to use, this Latin sort of phrase, in situ, which I use quite a bit. It's an alternative. Sometimes when they're talking about what's happening on the ground in a conflict, or our representative is there in the field, or in situ. It's like an alternative. So here, perhaps you could also say here, whether they be virtual or in person. They're talking about the kind of meetings they're going to be having. So maybe here, even here in person would be better, as it's the opposite to being virtual. But nonetheless, it's a good solution to know, in situ. It's a good one to have. Okay, so like I say, very quick episode today. I don't think I'm even going to go to the trouble of putting in my hilarious photos in this, but I just wanted to give you something to chew over of a Sunday evening. Hopefully teach you a couple of new tricks. Hope you enjoyed the show, as usual. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe. Go find me on the LinkedIn channel. Also, all you Italians, any Italian guys out there, of any subscribers, there's my partner in crime working on the LinkedIn, the group, the Interpretation Station. She's just this evening put out a new text I think it's from English into Italian. She always has some really great tips there for you translators, and also for interpreters as well. I think translators can teach us interpreters a lot when it comes to sort of good vocabulary. So go check that out if you have Italian in your combination. And I'm going to leave you to it and go and have my dinner. I think I've deserved it. Episode 36 of the Interpretation Station is adjourned.
The train is now leaving the Interpretation Station. We hope you enjoyed your visit. Until next time, folks.